We're on Devo number 3 in this series on how God is orderly. And last time we looked at Noah, and this time we're looking at Moses. Exodus 12 is another story of order. The people were to take a lamb, one without defect. They were to slaughter it and place the blood on their doorposts, to eat their meat with herbs and a special bread, and they're to have their cloaks tucked into their belts, sandals on their feet, and staff in hand. Lots of orders given with lots of details. All of this was because it was the night that the Lord was going to pass through Egypt and strike the firstborn of the homes of those with other gods other than the Lord, the ones that had been making God's children their slaves. But when God's people had obeyed the orders that they were given, and he saw the blood on their doorposts, then they would be spared from this judgment. This is the beginning of the first Passover, a day to celebrate God's deliverance of his people from the wicked king that wouldn't let them go. Starting in verse 24, it says that Moses told the people, "Obey these instructions as a lasting ordinance for you and your descendants. When you enter the land the Lord will give you that he promised, observe this ceremony. And when your children ask, what does this ceremony mean to you? Then you can tell them it's the Passover sacrifice to the Lord, who passed over the houses of the Israelites in Egypt and spared our homes when he struck down the Egyptians." And it says the people bowed down and worshiped, and they did just what the Lord commanded Moses and Aaron. In other words, God had all these orders for his people to follow, and in following those orders, they were given a promise for them and their children. When their children would ask about the celebration later, they would tell them how they obeyed, and their enemies were struck down, but they were spared. And it says the people worshiped and obeyed. Now, all of that prep, all of those orders to be obeyed, and all of those details were followed before the deliverance came. It was after the death of the firstborn that the wicked king then said, "Go, leave," and the people were set free. Imagine what would have happened if the people had not obeyed those detailed orders. Their homes may have been struck by the death angel. They would not have been distinguishable from the enemy, and they would most likely have missed the exodus and being set free. Orders were important for freedom before the freedom came. We're given orders on how to run our households with children in tow, and we're told to do things in a certain order so that generations after us are blessed. We're to tell them of God's goodness, share with them God's love, lead by example, and always have the story of Christ, so to speak, on the door frames of our homes. There will be enemies that taunt our children and those we love, but when we have obeyed God's orders to love him and love others, and we followed his commands, our children will be in that exodus with us when we go, and they'll celebrate with us for generations to come because we serve an orderly God.